Hi, it's Jamie here. So in this video, we're going to take a closer look at the bones and joints of the ankle and the foot. So without any further ado, let's take a closer look. So we have these two bones here in the leg. So we've got this big thick one here, which is on the inside, the medial side. And then we've got this thinner outside bone. So this is the tibia, okay? And this bone, tibia just means shin, really. And a lot of these bones, a lot of anatomy, they get their names from sort of Latin and Greek. This also means flute or pipe. Many animal bones were used, they were hollowed out. Many tibias were used and hollowed out and made flutes or pipes out of tibias. The one on the outside, on the lateral side here, the thinner one, well, this is called the fibula, and this means brooch, because it's thought to look or resemble the pin of a brooch. Yep, so if you've got a brooch, you look at the back, you might think that fibula looks something like a pin. So if I stand that up, just bring these cushions back together, and you'll see the big shin bone coming down, the tibia, and then you'll see on the outside the fibula. You see the fibula comes down a little bit lower than the tibia and then sort of encircles another bone, which we'll talk about in a second. But at the end there, they sort of stick out a little bit here, sticking out here, and also sticking out here. And these are called the medial malleolus and the lateral malleolus. These are the knobbly bits in your ankle. What you'll see then is you'll see the ends of the tibia and the fibula covering this bone in here and forming a joint. Well, this bone in here is called the talus. That's called the talus. And it's basically the ankle bone or knuckle bone. And that allows movement in this plane. So if I take it over here like this and just work this movement, you can see this movement where we're flexing and extending the ankle joint there. Okay, so we're plantar flexing and dorsiflexing. That's called the talocrural joint. And crural just means relating to the leg or the thigh. And that's a hinge joint, synovial hinge joint. If we come a little bit further down, we'll come to this bone here. And this is the calcaneum or heel bone. Calcaneum or heel bone. And calx, which is spelled C-A-L-X, that means limestone or sort of chalk in appearance. So it was thought to sort of look hard or chalky in appearance. Anyway, that's the heel bone. And what you might not see, you can't quite see them on some of these models, is there's a little protuberance there. This is called this is a tubercle, something sticking out, perineal tubercle. And what we've got is we've got some muscles running down here and the tendons running one above the tubercle and one below the tubercle. Okay, and these are the tendons of peroneus longus and peroneus brevis, or fibularis longus and fibularis brevis, depending on which book you look into. And the brevis is on the top, it's coming down and attaching into just the base of this bone here, which is the little toe, base of the little toe, or base of the, very much the base of the little toe, right at the very end. We'll come across that in a second. And then the other one wraps underneath, and it actually, if we have a look, it runs down this little groove here. Okay, and that's a groove in that particular bone, and that bone is called the cuboid, meaning cube-shaped. Okay, so that's the cuboid. If we look over the other side, we've got some other bones that we can name. This is the navicular, or that means little boat or little ship. Okay, it almost looks like a little boat in there. The words navy meaning, or navus meaning ship, really. And then here we've got the cuneiform. So that means wedge shaped, cuneiform. and that's the medial. There's the small intermediate, and there's the lateral cuneiform there. Okay, and they're really sort of part of that sort of transverse arch of the foot itself. Then we've got bones beyond the tarsal bones. These are called tarsal bones. So beyond, meta, beyond or beside, these are metatarsals. Okay, and you can see these are long bones coming down. And then we have smaller bones, and these are the phalanges. Okay, so you can see the proximal and distal phalanx or phalanges of the big toe here, and then we've got a proximal, middle, and distal. So we've got 3 phalanges on all the rest. Okay, so if we just go around the other side, now what we've got here is, you might be able to see it from the back a little bit better. There's a little shelf poking out here, little shelf poking out, and this is called the sustentaculum tali, meaning little shelf. And then running just sort of below that is the tendon of flexor hallucis longus. And you'll see these in bones. You'll see how the tendons and arteries, and they sort of make little indentations into bones. This joint here, so here's the talus, here's the calcaneum, this is the subtalar joint, and that enables us to sort of fine tune if we were, say, walking over sort of undulating ground or something like that. If we go back round the other way and we look at this joint here, so the joints between the talus, that's the head of the talus, the navicular, and there's a little attachment to the calcaneum in there as well. So this joint's got a bit of a long name. It's called the talocalcaneo-navicular joint here, and that's a synovial multi-axial joint. And when you're treating that, if you know that what that joint is, you know the sort of almost ball and socket type motion of it, then you can apply your techniques much more effectively. So it's more of a circular type motion than it would be a sort of a shearing-y type motion if it was, say, a plane joint. That's a synovial multi-axial joint. If we go around here, so this is where the calcaneum meets the cuboid now. So this is the calcaneo-cuboid joint. We can't quite see in there, but if you were to separate that, that's actually a saddle joint, little saddle joint in there. And then hiding in between is the cuboido-navicular joint deep in there, and that is what's called a syndesmosis, meaning that it's basically connected by strong ligaments or strong membrane. So moving on then, so if we look at the joint between this bone, the navicular, and the cuneiform, this is actually the cuneo-navicular joint, and it's a curved, you can see it's like a slightly curved joint. I'll bring it closer to the camera. It's a slightly curved plane joint, really. And then what we have in between the navicular joints are really complex, or what's called complex plane joints. A lot of these now are plane joints, meaning that the surfaces, if I just put that down for a second, are going to sort of slide like this. And this is really when you're working with your technique, where you're trying to find those surfaces to slide through. And you might have to search with your forces, your vector of forces, in order to find those particular angulations, really. The tarso, so these are the tarsals. The tarso-metatarsal joints are plane joints as well. These are all plane joints. And then we've got the joints in between. So in here, these are plane joints. So if I turn that around and just hold one and the other, you'll see hopefully that sort of sliding movement between. Okay, so these are all plane joints, and these are often what we call joint play movements that patients can't do for themselves. So with your hands-on osteopathic manipulative techniques, you can really improve some of this range of motion for patients. Okay, as we go further down then into these joints, these are the metatarsal phalangeal joints, and these are sort of ellipsoidy joints, so they move in a sort of a circular fashion. And as we move further down, more distally, these are going to be your your hinge joints, where things are curling, flexing, and extending. Okay, so if you understand the joints, certainly know the bones, you understand the joints, then this will make your techniques, your osteopathic techniques, way more effective than rather than just sort of applying techniques without really any rhyme or reason behind them. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like it and share it, and I look forward to doing the next one.